Hey, friends, welcome back to the podcast. I get to dive into the topic of friendship with Paige Clark. Paige is a writer and a speaker. She's also a corporate social media strategist. She's the founder of the Idea Lab, where she helps entrepreneurs and small businesses craft creative marketing strategies. She is a digital course creator. Her course is called Be a Better Person. I love that. Be a better person. I think we all probably need that in some way. And that is where she teaches soft skills for everyday experiences. Paige has over a decade of digital marketing experience and a background in psychology and communications. She brings a very unique perspective to her work, blending faith, psychology, and human connection. Paige is a girl after my own heart as she hosts the 9 to 5 Faith podcast. She explores how faith can shape the workplace, offering candid conversations that resonate with listeners. And in addition to teaching webinars for digital marketing, she's also an author exploring themes of inspiration and reclaiming beauty in daily life. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this conversation. So let's dive in. Truth time. When's the last time you raised your hands for a swift kick in the pants? Well, I'm the no-nonsense type friend who's going to tell you when you have food in your teeth. So let's get right to it. This is your infusion of sacred and secular, calling you higher into who God created you to be, exploring how intimately faith applies to every part of your life, and how you can live that faith every single day in the marketplace. I felt the tension of separation of church and state. I've been one of the few women at a table of men for decades, and I've stood my ground. Are you ready to do the same? These tools, resources, and interviews are meant to do just that. I'm Jan Touchberry, and it's time to share her faith at work. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. This is actually an episode that I have had people ask me about. So I'm super excited to have a conversation about friendship. As you heard in the intro, I get to have that conversation with a new friend, Paige. So, Paige, welcome to the show. And thanks so much for spending some time with us. Tell us all about you.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here and to talk about friendship because I have my own little soapbox that I am super passionate about, and that is friendship, especially in today's day and age. I am married. I live in Phoenix, Arizona-ish. I live outside of Phoenix, in a little bit of farm country. Yes, we have farm country in the middle of the desert. I live across the street from a cotton field. People don't believe that when I say that, but it is true. And I work full time in-house at a company in the marketing department. But I also am a Christian speaker and writer and working on publishing a few books right now and all the things going on. So it's a lot to keep me occupied.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You sound like me. You've got full-time job over here, other things that God has told you to do over here, and always busy. I love it.
Yes,
You're my kind of
yes.
girl. So you have a background in psychology, which I find very interesting considering you work in marketing.
Yes.
Tell me how those intersect. I'm assuming, like, I don't have a background in psychology, although my daughter does. I would assume that that background would serve you really well in the communications and marketing space.
It does, it does. And there's a couple of reasons why I chose psychology, to be completely frank, because I keep it 100% real.
Same.
It was because I got a free degree. It's because I worked at a
Okay.
university. So I got
Hello.
my master's for free.
Awesome.
I had to pay taxes, but that was about it. I had my options of what I got my master's in, and psychology was the one that was like the best fit for me because when I was in my undergrad, which was in communications, I really enjoyed the psych courses,
Mm.
because there are some courses that around the psychology of communication, and I really grabbed onto those. And then when it came to my degree, really the reason why I chose it was because I just wanted to know how to be a better person to those around me.
Mm.
And that's kind of the why. Like, yes, it's a backup career. Yes, I got it for free. Things like there's a lot of things that went into it, but at the end of the day, I was like, I just want to know how to be a better person to the people around me, how to mentor, the young adults that I work with better, how to be a better wife, how to be a better communicator, how to be better at my job that I do every single day. And so that's kind of how I landed there. And it was a great experience to kind of land there because it's like a little like secret code that I have in my back pocket. A lot of people don't really know that I have that degree.
That's awesome. I love that. Love that so much. So tell me how communications and marketing and psychology led to a soapbox on friendship.
I like to say marketing is what I'm good at, but not what I'm called to do.
Oh,
So, what
that's so
I'm
good.
called to do, what my assignment is from God, is to go out and write and speak and do all of those things. And the marketing is to pay the bills. So, really, it comes down to like psychology and communication, how those kind of intersect. Because once we understand a little bit better how people operate, it changes how we communicate with them.
Mm-hmm.
So from a marketing perspective, you'll say, a really good kind of marketer worth their salt when they're writing copy or creating a campaign, they'll really focus around the pain points. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because those are the emotional pieces of telling a story. If I work in a lot in like technology and software, it's really hard to sell software. Just for those out there, it's really hard to do B2B sales. It's even harder to do something that's like not a tangible item.
Right. Yeah.
Right? It's like this ether, and like you can
Uh-huh.
only
Uh-huh.
share a screen so many times. But if you really get to the heart of it, that's their pain point. It changes how you communicate with them. And
Mhm.
so the same with goes for relationships, and to bring it full circle, friendships. Once we know how people receive information and how they best respond to information and feedback, we're able to better curate our relationships with them.
That's really good. So friendship is hard for women, right?
Yeah.
Let's just call a spade a spade. It's hard. Growing up, I always had male friends that
Mm.
were closer than most female friends because
Yeah.
I'm the non-drama girl. I don't like it, and women just draw it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just being real.
Absolutely.
And so it's just hard. It's harder. We seem to compete with each other more. And for some reason, guys just is so like laid back and easy. I don't know. I'm sure they have their own little idiosyncrasies in where friendship is concerned, but female friendships just seem harder.
Yeah.
Tell me about why you're so passionate about talking friendship specifically.
Really, it's friendship, and it's also just those close circles that we have around us. So there's
Mhm.
conversations around like mentorship is something also I'm really
Mm,
passionate about. So we're going to talk about like our community. And one thing that really rocked me is the fact that we are more connected than ever before in the history of mankind. We
mhm.
are more connected. We have more network. We have a bigger reach. We have a bigger way to get people to hear our voice, but we are so alone.
Yeah.
We are so lonely. There is a loneliness epidemic that is happening. We are isolated. We are so wanting to be known by people
Mhm.
around us, and we're just not there. And so that's why I really honed in on kind of just this idea of friendship, and also just like that in person, like the interpersonal relationships that we have. Because this is great. I love talking one on one with people. However, there's like online communities, and like not ragging on those, they have their purpose. But if they were doing what they were really meant to do and what they claim to do, we
Mm.
wouldn't have this loneliness epidemic.
Let me
Yeah.
back up a little bit. Do you think that this loneliness epidemic started with, is it pre 2020? Or did it start like, did it start way before that? Because I have my own thoughts. I'm anxious to hear yours. And yeah, I'm just going to leave it there and then we'll spin off that.
Yeah, I do think it happened before that. I think with the age of social media, it kind of like started that trajectory. I do think COVID, I don't think it caused it, although there's contributing factors that are way beyond like
Sure.
that's a whole other that's a whole other episode that
Yeah.
we could
Yeah.
get into. Um, but I think that it only exemplified the
Mm,
problems that we're having,
hmm.
because that's when you really saw the like hockey stick spike of online communities really happen is because people were like, okay, we can't meet in person, we can't see each other, we can't be amongst each other. How do we solve for this problem? And it didn't solve the problem. So I think there is something so strongly to be said about having those interpersonal relationships in person, having your community in person around you, because it is really easy to fake authenticity and reality online. It's really easy to fake that. And unless you're going into like an online space with that intention of like, hey, I'm going to kind of put it all out there, it's really easy to fake it. And then you're not known.
Mm,
The
yeah.
persona that you're portraying is what is known and not authentically you. And I think that's the missing piece in kind of this loneliness kind of
Right.
puzzle.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I mean, we brag about how many Facebook friends or followers we have. I'm a fan of Instagram calling it followers instead of friends because I
Mm,
think that's such a misnomer. They're not my friends. I don't know three-quarters of the people who I'm friends with on Facebook, right? There's no
yeah.
relationship there. And I believe that friendship takes relationship, and relationship
Mm,
includes vulnerability.
yeah.
And so I 100% agree with what you're saying. I think that I am a technology girl. I love it. So in my day job, I am an online campus pastor at my church.
Mm,
And so I've been in this space for a really long time. And I think that it can be a place where you can be safe and vulnerable in that online digital space. I think there's purpose for it, but the way that we handle it, the way that I feel like is most I want to say beneficial to people who avail themselves of relationships online is to always say that we absolutely think that in-person connection is better.
yeah.
If you can't have that for some reason,
Right.
then let's be vulnerable and let's get real and raw and do everything that we possibly can to really truly know each other in this digital space, in the digital age. I just
Right.
think that social media has taken on a life of its own because I feel like, push back if you think different. I feel like when it first started, it was a little bit more open and vulnerable. And I think it's become a mask.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, like you hit on it of like the blurring of the lines between like
Mhm.
friends and followers and
Yeah.
like that, because like I am fine to be like vulnerable with like my friends,
Hmm.
but I think what was happening is we put a lot of people in that bucket who didn't, I say this so loosely, didn't deserve to be in that bucket,
Sure.
who we didn't have that relationship to begin with to say, yeah, these are my friends. And so like your vulnerabilities weren't really well received.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so people just didn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And so like I think that there's been a cultural shift that has happened, but I 100% agree with you in that if in-person relationships can happen, make it happen, like, put that as a priority. I fear that people are kind of using that as a crutch,
Mm.
and I think that, like oh, I hope I don't make anyone mad, but I would argue to say that the amount of people who genuinely can't do in-person relationships is, like, less than 1%.
Oh, sure. It's super small.
Right? Like, I'm talking about
Super
people
small.
who are homebound, people who are might not have the physical ability to be somewhere, someone who is maybe more isolated or in a rural area, like, things like that, but
Yeah.
that is such a small percent, and I think that we have curated a digital first world for
Mm.
that really tiny percent, and then
Hmm.
the rest of the majority has kind of fallen back and used that as a crutch to
Yeah.
not engage in person and in an authentic way.
Yeah. That's really good. So, how would you define friendship?
I think there's varying levels of
Mm.
friendship. I kind of think of it as a target model, right? This is probably like very familiar if you think about relationships in general, is you have like this really big wide circle, and these are the people who know you, who you might say hi to at the grocery store, the people next to you in church. Like you're like, hey, I know you, I've seen you, we've talked before. More of the acquaintances. That's
Yep.
kind of this outer big circle. And then we have kind of like that inner circle. These are people who might like wish you happy birthday, your neighbors who are like, hey, I need you to watch my dog. You can rely on them for little bits of things. And then you have your like really close, tight knit circle,
Mhm.
might be two or three friends in that really tight circle. And I like to say, as you kind of go in on that circle, the level of intimacy and vulnerability kind of gets more intense as you
Yeah.
get in on that circle. And so that's kind of how I define it. It's more of like function rather than like definition.
Mm,
I like to think of like how I interact with people around me. And then that's kind of how I define whether or not like they're a friend to me in my life.
that's really, really good. Hasn't this episode been amazing so far? I'm going to let you get right back to it, I promise. But this is the time in the show that I get to remind you about our focus organization for the month. And in October, we're focusing on Bell and Sparrows. It is an amazing organization that serves women that are coming from a hard place and helping them get back on their feet. And y'all, I know that we can do some good in banding together with this organization to help even more women. There are so many ways that you can do that. You can find it all on their website, which is linked in the show notes. And if you are a auditory person, it's Bell and Sparrows, BELLEANDSPARROWS.org. And there are lots of different ways that you can get involved. They just take donations, which is fantastic. If you are more of a hands on person, they are doing mission trips that you can go on and join them in the actual ministry that they're doing. And then one of my favorite things to do is shop. I love to shop, and they have the most amazing candles. Their fall scents are amazing, and you're going to want one for your home. And why don't we make a pact right now? Let's get our Christmas shopping done in October. You get everybody a Bell and Sparrows candle. They are happy with their gift. Bell and Sparrows gets to help more women. And then something that I'm doing right now for my own business. So, business owners, listen up. They can white label their candles with your logo. And I'm actually using them for client gifts. And they're beautiful, you guys. So, again, go to bellandsparrows.org. You'll find the link in the show notes and find out how you can get involved and support this amazing organization. Now, back to the show. So, do you think digital friendship is possible at all?
Oh, absolutely. I think it is definitely possible. I think it is, and this goes into like more of the tenets of like what makes a good friendship, but I think that it takes a lot of responsibility
Mm,
and intentionality on both parts of the party. I
sure.
think that when you have in-person relationships, it's a little easier to kind of fudge that a little bit.
Mm,
Like I think of like the people I see every week at church, and I'm like, I can like reach out to them, and that's something I love to do with, especially with the young adults. They tend to be a little flighty, and I'm like, I'll see you next week, and they'll be like, yeah, I'll see you next week. I don't see them next week, things like that, where it's like I can get away with, like, being a little bit more one directional,
yeah.
but I feel like when it's hard to have a one directional relationship online. I have plenty of friends that I have
Yep.
met online, some I've never met in person. I try to remedy that. I try to meet everyone I can when I'm in the neighborhood or in their state or whatever. So I definitely do think it is possible. I think it takes a different level of intentionality when you
Mm,
do it.
yeah. No, I totally agree with that. What do you see as the biggest challenge to having a real, meaningful friendship in 2024?
I have to, like, calm myself down because I get so worked up about this because it is that there is a lack of commitment
Mm,
and a lack of accountability on people to
yeah.
show up for the other person.
Oh,
And
that's
I
good. Yeah.
like, it's really d like, it's hard. It's hard to do that, and I don't know if people are willing to kind of step outside themselves in that way to put the effort and consistency towards maintaining those relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's good.
That's, like, hands down, is,
Yeah.
like, if you're having an issue, like, maintaining friends or being friends or finding friends. I could, if you bring me two people and you're having a hard time with that person, one of those people is probably really flaky and
Mm,
really like you can't really depend on them.
hmm. Or busy. It's another epidemic
Yeah.
that we have to fight against because I think to your point, intentionality and needing to be intentional and committed to working on friendships, to growing them, to developing them, to being present for them requires us to strip things back out of our schedule and
Mhm.
create those priorities for, penning in ink, not pencil, but
Right.
ink, the time to give to those relationships in order to develop the friendships. And we are just so busy
Mm.
that every single second of every single day is full. And
Yeah.
so I know I'm just calling, I'm calling myself out. I struggle with that. I
Yeah.
have people who desire and pursue friendship with me, and I have to be like, I have to talk to myself and be super intentional about making sure that my calendar is open enough to devote time to those because that's not my natural tendency.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will say, like, it's not always going to be, like, equal parts. Like,
Sure.
it's not always gonna be like that. I went through a season recently, and I, like, told my friends, I'm like, "Thank you for, like, continuing to pursue me
Yeah.
when I was in this season because I did not have the ability or the capacity to be your friend
Mm,
that you deserve."
yeah.
However, you have to be able to have that awareness within yourself and be able to communicate that. I think that's a maturity thing.
Mhm.
You have to be able to communicate that effectively because then the other person just feels forgotten about and
Yeah.
left on red. The Gen
Mhm.
Zers would say, like, "Oh, you left me on red, you ghosted me." I think those are a lot of the problems that we are having. And I
Mhm.
think too, like, you have to be able to just kind of step into the gap when your friends
Mm.
can't, and
Oh, that's
they'll do
good.
the
Yeah.
same back for you.
Yeah. I like that. Step into the gap. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really good. So, why do you think it's so hard to build genuine friendships? I know and we've kind of talked through a couple of things, the busyness, the intentionality. I want to say there's personalities that go into it. Like for me, I'm more of an introvert. I'm
Mm.
super comfortable making friends online.
Yeah.
I am less than comfortable putting myself out there and trying to make new friends or grow friendships with people that I don't really know. It's just it's not part of my being. It's not I like to say it's not how God created me, but that's probably a cop out because he created me for community.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a couple thoughts. The first one being like I think that when we step into friendship, when we have those friends and those like really close like that's the center of the target, I think that there's a lot of pressure culturally and societally to not present our authentic self and our
Mm, mhm.
curated like, we want to curate our experience.
Sure.
And
Instagram
so
friendships.
yeah, and so to your point earlier where, like, I have to put someone in, like, on in pen. I think, like, we need to expand our threshold to be able to accept people when we can't.
Mm,
So, like, if my house is a mess, I don't want people over. But what's more important? Is the fact that my house is a mess more important, or is that relationship more important? And I
mm,
think once you begin to develop that with other people and, like, show up authentically, like, you welcome people into your world like that,
mhm.
they're more willing to accept you into their world like that.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. The more real and vulnerable you are with people, the more apt they are to be real and vulnerable with you.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think too, it allows for the messiness of life to come in
Mhm. Yeah.
because my house is a mess right now. Like we were talking earlier, my office is under construction right now.
Yeah.
Things like that where if I were to open my calendar and I would say like, okay, let's have people over, guess what? They're not going to find room for the next few weeks.
Mhm.
But if I just said, like my friends know like they can stop by at any time and trust me they do, like, "Hey, just come on over, stop by, like, help yourself to whatever." I might be doing dishes, I might be working, I might have my laptop out, but they're still welcome into this space, and I think that really allows for a level of just authenticity on behalf of both parts and, like,
Mm.
shows that, like, their mess is welcome too in my mess.
Mm. Your mess is welcome in my mess. I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. That should be a t-shirt.
And
We
I
should
think
have a
this
t-shirt line, Paige.
I would love that. And I think the second thing too, especially to your point of like how we make friends and personalities and all that. I work every week with our young adults and I started volunteering around the same time as this other guy. And this other guy is like this larger for life personality and I can get there. It's not usually my default, but I found myself kind of not growing jealous, but like being like, I wish I could make friends like he is. Like, I wish I could make these like really good connections. Like, he's giving kids hugs and like everyone's coming up and saying hi and like really I was like, I wish I could have that. Like, we've been here the same amount of time. We've had the same exposure to the same groups. Like, what is happening? And I don't know if there's like some God moment or something, but I have realized that I've been able to really get deep with a select few of
Mm.
people who attend, and that those relationships foster themselves in their own way. And
Mhm.
so while we might have like very different personalities and different ways, one of my favorite things someone said to me once is like, we can all plant the seeds, but it is God who does the growing.
Mhm.
And I think that that is my approach to how we make friendships and how we cultivate those things. And I think we need to accept that not all friendships are forever, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Friendships have seasons too.
That's good. Yeah. That's really good. I was just thinking about that the other day as I was driving home, actually. I was just thinking about a friend who like I have one friend from like we've been friends since junior high. And she's that friend that we can go literally years without seeing each other in person, but the second we get in the same room, we're right back to where we were. We're staying up all night chatting, we're talking deep, we're talking reality, we're sharing, all the things. And then there's other people that I can see every single day. And yet, if they, and we have relationship, but if they move out of my sphere and I'm no longer seeing them, they, the friendship fades.
Yeah.
And it's a good reminder that that's okay.
Yeah. I kind of go back, there's like this little like, I don't know, trope going around of like, how many bridesmaids do you still talk to who were in your wedding?
Mm,
And like more often than not, I hear people saying, and I mean, this is true for my wedding too, of like, some of them I don't really talk to anymore. And
yeah.
like that's okay because they were important for you in that season. And so just like being accepting of that, of like not like if you had a hard breakup with that friendship, like it's okay to mourn that season and like mourn that friendship and like be open to like it blooming in future seasons, but also being okay with moving on with other relationships, all of that stuff is okay, and it's fine for you to go like, we don't have a limited number of friends that we can have in a lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. So if someone was was asking for your expert advice in the friendship field because they're having some difficulty. What would you tell somebody if they ask the question, how do you know when it's time for a friendship to be dissolved or to move to a different phase, if that makes
Yeah.
sense, to phase
Yeah.
out?
Yeah, and there's definitely phases of friendships too.
Yeah.
And I think it like a lot of it depends on like life season, right?
Mm.
So like my friendships with my friends who have kids are very different than the ones that don't have kids because I don't have kids. So like our ability to relate to one another on multiple different levels changes.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so knowing that that's like in flux and it's always going to be in flux. I think that we have a tendency to have like the good memory and hold on to the good memory for dear life and be like, it always has to be this way. And like, if it's not this way, then something's broken and something's wrong.
Right.
And also know that like your lives aren't growing together. You're growing your life and they're growing their life. And at some points those might match up and at other times they might not match up. And so understanding like and having empathy for that other person who might be in a different season than you. And so being open and being really aware of those things and being able to, again, step into that communication and like have the maturity to have those conversations of like,
Mm.
hey, like I'm probably like not the best person to talk to about this. Or also like asking for permission to give your opinion on something, that is
Mhm.
something that my very big mouth has to do a lot because I say things that are a little blunt sometimes.
Same.
And a lot of the times, like with a lot of my friends, I say, like, do I have your permission to be honest with you right now?
Oh,
And
that's really
sometimes the
good.
answer is no.
Yeah, that's a good
Sometimes the answer is
question.
no. Yeah, and I've had to learn that for myself because also like I don't want to hurt my friends and even with my like marriage relationship like I say, the husbands they go, "Do you want me to fix this or do you want me to hear you?" Sometimes you just want to be heard.
Uh-huh. Yep,
Same
yep.
goes for friendships here.
That's great. So, what are some other pieces of advice that you would have people know about friendships and how to really cultivate good, healthy friendships?
Yeah, I think that there's a little bit of like luck and just circumstance that kind of comes into it. One of my good friends, we were in college together. I didn't know anyone in the class. She didn't know anyone in the class. She asked me, "Hey, is anyone sitting there?" I said, "You're sitting there." And she sat down and now we're really good friends. So there's just like some things that are happenstance and they become like that. But I do think like there's the ability to like be really intentional in seeking out friendships.
Mhm.
My first rule is like it's okay to be weird. It's okay to like look at someone and be like, "Hey, like you seem like really cool. Can we be friends?" I have said that.
Yeah,
I have said that to multiple
I have
people.
too.
Li-
Yep.
Yeah, just like, "Hey, you seem like a really awesome person that I want to surround myself with. Can we be friends?
Yep.
Can we talk more later? Can we exchange numbers?" Whatever it is. It's okay to be a little weird in that
Mhm.
regard.
Sure.
It's just like dating, just shoot your shot sometimes.
Sometimes you have to.
To your point at the very beginning, women struggle with friendships. So
Yeah.
the likelihood is that person also wants friends in their life and friendship.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think the second point is knowing when and how to identify like toxic relationships.
Mm.
Um, you were saying like, I don't really want to deal with the drama, like a ton of drama. I'm right
Yeah.
there with you. I'm like, I have no tolerance for drama in my life. I'm like, my life is dramatic enough. That's the reason I don't watch reality TV. Like, I don't need more drama in my
Uh-huh.
life,
Uh-huh.
let alone from friendships. And so just like being ultra aware of like your own boundaries and your own kind of relationship with those various things.
Mhm.
Um, and if you see a friendship like heading down that path, it's okay to pull yourself back. It's okay to set up boundaries around that.
Mhm.
Like friendships have boundaries too, right? Like you can talk about certain things, you can't talk about certain things. That's all right. And it's all within the scope of like reasonable relationships. And so that's something that, I don't think we talk a lot about because I think that there's the tendency to either A, kind of like knuckle through it and being like, oh, they're just like going through a really hard time. Yes, but sometimes they're also just jerks. Like,
Yeah.
like not everyone's a nice person.
Sure.
Like, I think everyone has the capacity to be a nice person, but that's not everyone's reality right now. And so
Indeed.
you don't have to have intimate relationships with everyone. My mom would always used to say, you don't have to be friends with her. You just have to be friendly to her, right?
Mm.
We just have to be cordial to people. And then the people we let in our circle, we get to be a little bit more discerning with.
Yeah, that's great. That's beautiful. So when you go and speak places, do you speak on friendship?
I am actually building a course right now specifically on friendship. And
What?
I'm really excited because it's going to be the first in many of a series. But yes, it's going to be a course designated for friendship because we have these issues and also, can I just say, no one teaches you how to be a friend.
That is very true.
Like growing up, it was like, don't push them, don't be mean to them. That's about it. But
Yeah,
there are like, we don't know the tenets of good friendship. We don't know the red flags of friendship. And so I'm like hoping to kind of fill that gap there.
that's great. Can you just give us a little sneak peek? What are a few tenets of good friendship?
Yeah, accountability is
Mhm.
one of them. I think that, and when I talk about these two, of course, there's varying degrees.
Sure.
So I'll talk about like the most intense degree because that's usually what we think of when we think of
Yeah.
our friends is like the close two or three in the center of that target,
Hmm.
right? So the people you can say like, hey, like you're messing up on this,
Yeah.
and like I'm gonna call you
Stop
out,
it.
right?
Yeah.
We're taking it to that level. So, accountability is a really big one, and that
Hmm.
one is straight biblical, right? Like
Yep.
straight up, we need to be accountable to one another, and that is not only about how we show up, but also how we give and receive feedback
Hmm.
about our life. If my friend is acting up, I'm going to tell her she's acting up, and I expect the same thing back from her. If I'm acting
Yeah.
up in my life, I want to be called out on that too. Um, so accountability, vulnerability. So they're a little bit different. Accountability is about like the ability to like give and receive information, where accountability is like vulnerability is what is that information.
Hmm.
So being able to like be just real and authentic with the other person of like, hey, this is the struggle. This is the mess that I'm going through right now.
Yeah.
And like we said earlier, like inviting them into our mess allows them to share their mess as well.
Hmm.
And then the other one that I think kind of gets skipped over that's like kind of a given, but also like you need to cultivate it is fun. You need to have
Yeah.
fun with your friends.
Yeah.
Right, like and also sometimes fun doesn't, like, naturally happen, right? We have to
That's
try
true.
a little bit. We have to, like, think of, like, your romantic relationships, my relationship with my husband. We have fun together, but if we're not intentional about
Yep.
having fun together, guess what? I'm gonna be working until 8 o'clock at night. We're not gonna go on date nights because we're not planning those, right? Like, you have to have a level of intentionality around your fun.
Yeah.
And so, I always like to encourage, like, whether it's a girls trip. My favorite thing that is happening right now, and I wanna do this so badly, is, like, the girls' camp, like, the women's camps that are
Oh, fun.
happening. Oh my gosh, there's one that I saw that was, like, at a chateau in France, and it was, like, a women's weekend, but it was, like, women only, like, there was no like, it wasn't a religious thing, it wasn't
Yeah.
a spiritual thing, it was just, like, a weekend of fun or, like, a week of fun in the middle of France doing all these kind of fun things. I was like, "We need more of that."
We
Also, I would love
absolutely do.
that.
Yes, we absolutely do.
So
Faith
fun is
Clark,
a really big tenet.
yeah, I agree with that. If you are a part of my audience, you can stay tuned because that actually is in the plan for 2025.
That's exciting.
Yeah, yeah, some fun retreats. It'll be good.
Love it.
So tell everybody where they can find you. And I know a little birdie told me you might have something special for people who want to dig into friendship a little bit more.
Yes, yes. So you can find me. I'm everywhere. Paige C. Clark, website, Instagram, like all. If you can think of a social media platform, I'm there. So you can connect with me there. I'm most active on Instagram. So if Instagram's your vibe, like we'll hang out there together. And I also, speaking of like our friends and followers, I have a bestie group chat on my Instagram.
Oh,
So
fun.
like right, so like we get like behind the scenes, we get nitty gritty, we get like some like sometimes inappropriate humor, like all of that stuff happens in the bestie group chat, which is so fun. So if you're there, join that channel. It's a lot of fun. And I also do giveaways and things like that in there. And I have one thing for your audience, and it's 10 texts to send to your best friends.
Love it.
And it's, templated, but jumping off point to your friends. And I think that like if we have the time to sit on social media and scroll, we have the time to send a text message to our friends just to let them know that we love them.
So true. I love that. That is so great. We're going to put links for all of these things in the show notes. So make sure you go grab those. Paige, thank you so much for spending time with us today and talking about a subject that I don't think gets talked about enough, and that is friendship. So I appreciate your time, and I'm so excited for people to connect with you.
Thank you so much, Jan. I had a blast.
Thanks for joining me for another episode of Her Faith at Work. If the Lord put someone on your heart that you think needs to hear this message today, will you just smash that share button? And if you haven't already followed the show, I would love for you to do that. Super extra points if you hop over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. That helps the algorithm pick us up and drop us right in the AirPods of people that need to hear what the Lord is saying to them today. I hope you'll come back for the next episode of Her Faith at Work. The podcast comes out every Wednesday. And if you look down in the show notes, I've even got a couple of free downloads for you that I think you will really enjoy. With that, have a great week. See you next time.